Welcome to Goals World Cup 2018 prediction preview, where me and Jim are going to look like, well, we're going to look a little bit silly probably when all these come horribly wrong.
We're going to look fine for now.
Or like geniuses when we get them all right.
We're going to have a few weeks to look good, and then it could all go horribly wrong.
Unless one of our winners' prediction goes out in the group stage, and then we'll have a week out.
Yeah, that's the plan. That we'll hopefully have some winners to shout about by the end of the tournament.
So we're going to kick off with who we think is going to win the tournament.
Yep.
I'll go first, and I'll say I think Spain are going to win it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not.
You're going to be in the same camp as me.
Yeah, I'm very sweet on Spain.
Yeah. Spain have an incredibly strong squad. They have the likes of Isco, Diego Costa, Sergio Ramos, David De Gea, Gerard Piqué, Diego Alcantara, Andres Iniesta, David Silva. Oh my God, I'm running out of breath here, but it's just so many top players in that Spain squad. It's just so hard to look past them. And I know they haven't had really strong recent tournaments lately. Eliminated in the last 16 stage at the Euros, dumped out in the group stage 4 years ago in Brazil. But I think this tournament is there to turn it back around a little bit.
I think they laid to rest some of those demons. You know, they were knocked out by Italy, weren't they? 2 years ago, they beat them in qualifying and then drew the other game. They were the only points that they dropped. I think they only conceded 4 goals on the way to the World Cup, which is incredibly impressive, and I think shows exactly what they're designed to do. They're designed to keep a really tight back line, and they've got the weapons to unlock teams at the other end. So they don't mind winning ugly, but they have the style to win well as well. And I think they are a team that are better than they're an incredible sum of their parts, but I don't think they're overly reliant on one player. I think that's probably a better way to put it. If you look at a lot of the other teams at the front of the market, there's potentially 1 or 2 players that you're really reliant on showing up, and if they have a bad game, Spain are so consistent all over the pitch, and you know, they're the best defence. For me, David De Gea is the best goalkeeper in the world as well, and I think they're just a good bet, you know, around that area, and they can potentially go better than anyone else. Yeah,
I mean, we said about having these teams with stars like Argentina with Lionel Messi, Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo, arguably Brazil with Neymar. There are some teams who, if you're dependent on just that one player, it makes it difficult. And it's been done before. Maradona in 1986 is a big one.
And let's be honest, Leo Messi could drag Argentina to the later stages of a World Cup.
Oh yeah, I mean, he did it 4 years ago.
As could Cristiano Ronaldo with Portugal. But I like the idea of taking a team to win the tournament that are not dependent upon that one superstar necessarily, and are kind of have interchangeable parts that could make that whole team tick.
So let's go on to the best player. You go first with this one.
So I've gone for Isco.
Isco.
Yeah, down the Spain route. So Diego Costa is obviously probably going to be the leading man, I think, to start with. I think the man who could benefit from that most is Isco, because I think he could play in that false 9 role if Diego Costa picks up an injury or a suspension, which wouldn't be unlike him. Although he's quite good at not getting sent off. He's got a lot of black magic up his sleeve, I think. He doesn't get sent off that often, but he knows all the tactics to get under people's skin. I think Isco has had a fantastic campaign for Real Madrid. He was the guy keeping Gareth Bale out of the team for a long time at Real Madrid this season, and we saw exactly what Bale kind of did in the Champions League final. So if you're a player that can keep Bale out of that Real Madrid team, the 4th most expensive player in the world, out of that team, you know, we all know what Isco can do, and I think this could be his, not a breakout tournament, but it could be his time to shine in the Spanish spotlight.
Certainly in a mainstream
sense. He's so versatile. He can play across that kind of. If you play in a 4-2-3-1, he can play any of those roles plus as a false 9. I think he brings assist potential and goal scoring potential, which is always a good mix if you're looking at kind of best player. So that could be an outcome that potentially, I think it's a good, he's a good candidate.
I thought about doing Isco, but I thought you might do him. So I thought I'll go for someone different.
Miles is psyching me out
he was my number 3 on the options there. My number 2, I nearly went for David De Gea as like a little bit of a strange one, because I just figure like he might be the hero in penalty shootouts.
But they've got the Golden Glove, so if you're talking about best player, then they're already catered for goalkeepers.
I suppose
so they might not.
He might just be that amazing. They say, you know what, we'll give you all of them. We'll give you the Golden Boot as well.
Take all the trophies.
But I went for Sergio Ramos in the end. Sergio Ramos is my unorthodox pick for the best player of the tournament. And I know he goes into this being the villain of football right now, having injured Mo Salah in the Champions League final with his, shall we say, devious push and shoulder pull. And
judo throw.
It was a wrestling move, let's be honest. And he's very much a villain in Egypt right now. But I think that he's still a world-class defender. I think that it's been a while since we had a player who, well, kind of our Roach 2006 World Cup was the one the standout example of a centre-back who shone so much that you couldn't avoid giving him a best
Goal
player.
scoring potential as well. If you talk about best player, obviously Spain have an incredible defence, as we've said, but if Sergio Ramos was to...
He's up for corners.
Nod a couple of goals in, I think that always helps with your chances of winning a best player of the tournament award. That's the kind of thing that will count in his favour, and you know, if he doesn't score, it's not going to count against him. But if he manages to get 1 or 2 in, particularly in knockout games, people remember those goals.
Exactly, yeah. So I might be horribly wrong, and I'll probably look back at this in a couple of weeks and think, what was I thinking? But Sergio Ramos for me at the moment. Top scorer, I'm going to go with Edinson Cavani.
Yeah.
So a bit unorthodox for those of you who think it's going to be one of the top teams, but for me, you look at Uruguay's team in their opponents in Group A, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. And Egypt without Mo Salah potentially in that first game, and even if he does play, he's not going to be fully fit.
I don't think he's going to be at 100%, is he? If he does play, he's going to be playing through the pain barrier. I know there's a lot of people saying he will be fit, but I think that's more to kind of hope rather than expectation, potentially, and I think they'll just probably want him to get through that game, and so I think,
But then, you know, if you get through the last 16, which they could do, you know, they could have Portugal in the last 16, and then who knows from that point? You know, Uruguay got to the semi-finals 8 years ago. Diego Forlan had a fantastic tournament then when he scored a bag full of goals. Luis Suarez is obviously looked at as the main man in some senses, certainly from a mainstream perspective, from that Uruguay team. But for me, Cavani is the rabbit killer. Cavani is the player you want in that box to score against the smaller teams.
And he did it in South American qualifying as well. He comes in as the most potent South American goal scorer. Got 10 and Suarez only got 5. So I know they qualify over a 2-year period, so it's kind of, but then, you know, that's consistency for me on that international stage, and I think, I don't think you're too far off of Cavani.
And you're a big fan of Cavani, but you've gone for someone slightly different.
So Cavani was my first choice, but I've changed my pick just so it's not a complete Spain
whitewash
loving, and then with Cavani added on top. So I'm going to go for Olivier Giroud. Now, he's not probably the first choice top goal scorer pick for a lot of people within the France team, but if Antoine Griezmann gets his way and has Olivier Giroud as his leading target man, I think he could be in for a better tournament than a lot of people are giving him credit for. And while he doesn't have the most incredible goal scoring record, you know, he's not a kind of Neymar 0.7 goals per game man, for example. He offers France something different. He's an aerial threat more so than anyone else in that team. You know, his time at Arsenal and Chelsea, he can score goals, particularly if he's got the service from the likes of Griezmann, Mbappe, Dembele, and that's without the kind of pure midfield options, the likes of Pogba as well, if he gets a game for France, and if he's kind of given a focal point, more on that later, I guess. But I think he's underrated as an option in the top goal scorer, Golden Boot kind of race, purely because he's that plan B, which could actually be the plan A if it starts to go well. And I just think I've got a sneaky feeling he's in for a good tournament. He got 3, I think, at the European Championships, which is obviously 3 less than Antoine Griezmann managed because he got 6. But I think he could be in for a good tournament.
He's definitely up there. I mean, if France have a good tournament,
he has a good tournament, and that's the caveat to that. You know, France would have to do well, you'd expect.
But they have a group which, on paper, you think they should feel, you know, they should top that group relatively.
Absolutely, they should be confident of winning that group, and then confidence will get you a long way. And you know, you're going to have to play some good top teams at some point. So hopefully, he pops up with a couple of goals.
Surprise package, the team that's the biggest surprise package, who have you gone for?
I've gone Uruguay, and this kind of leads back into your Cavani kind of argument. I think they've got a really soft draw in Group A. I would be really, really disappointed if Uruguay didn't finish above Egypt.
They're comfortably the best team on paper.
And Saudi Arabia, they're comfortably the best team, and that sets them up for Portugal. In the last 16, assuming Group B finishes Spain, then Portugal, which obviously could change, but that's the most likely outcome in that. And I think then all bets are off in the last 16. If you get through that last 16 into the quarterfinals, should I say, I can see them going well. I think their centre-back partnership is really good. Godin and Jimenez play together at Atletico Madrid, don't they? And I think that's been underrated in the market. I think having a centre-back partnership that aren't just 2 players plucked from different clubs. If you look at a lot of teams, they've got, you know, going back to Spain, I know we said what a fantastic defence they've got. It's Real Madrid and Barcelona, that centre-back partnership. These 2 guys will know each other inside out, and they're a well-rounded kind of complete team. I like their chances. They were good in South American qualifying, and I can see them going really well.
One thing that that Uruguay have, which a lot of people haven't realised yet, and I think will happen during the tournament, is a much better midfield, a more European midfield than they've ever had in their history.
Because the more recognisable players are the two centre-backs and Suarez and Cavani up front, right?
But these young midfielders that have come into the side, like Bentancur, for instance, who plays for Juventus, are ones that really could be exciting to watch at this tournament. So we'll see how they get on. My surprise package is Croatia. And I would say that I think they're probably sitting in that same little bracket as Uruguay, as ones you wouldn't say as favourites to win.
Dark horses.
Dark horses, yeah, pure dark horses. For me, I don't rate Argentina's team that much. I mean, beyond Messi, who's incredible, and I do rate Sampioli as a coach. However, I just think, I look at that team, right, and it reminds me of Scotland's team heading into the 1978 World Cup. Throwback for those of you.
You're going to get a lot of heat for comparing Argentina to Scotland.
No, but I just look at that, and the entire thing was a farce, their 1978 World Cup campaign. They went into it, and the fans thought they were going to win it, because they did have some quality teams on paper, some quality players on paper, sorry. But their actual team, when it came together in Argentina, it was actually at that point, it was just a nightmare. The entire preparation, they got to the training ground and it wasn't fit for playing on and stuff like that. I look at Argentina's team and, you know, Lanzini dropping out at the last minute. He was one player who was definitely going to start because he works well with Messi. They have Aguero, who's a top striker, but he's coming in off injury. Higuain has struggled sometimes in major tournaments. They don't have a defence to speak of. I mean, Otamendi is pretty much the only defender I rate in that entire defensive squad. And then, as we've mentioned before, they don't really have a goalkeeper.
Javier Mascherano holding the midfield.
He's so old now. Like, he was amazing 4 years ago.
Mid-30s.
But he's gone to China. His fitness won't be the same. His quality isn't the same. It's just a squad that is at the tail end of like an era where they reached 3 finals, Copa America twice, and World Cup obviously 4 years ago. I just think it would take just the most amazing tournament from Lionel Messi for them to get anywhere near the semi-finals even. So for me, Croatia, who are in the same group as Argentina, they should top that group with Nigeria, Argentina and Iceland. And then if they top that group, they get one of Australia, Denmark, Peru, really should win that match. And then if you get through, you know, it's anyone's game at that point. And I look at that midfield, they have the likes of Luka Modric, who, for those who don't watch a lot of Croatia, he actually plays in more of a number 10 role for them. So he plays actually an attacking role. In the role you don't usually see him play for Real Madrid at all, but he is the creative linchpin. And Rakitic plays a bit further back now since in the last couple of years, since the Euros.
It's a great squad.
Yeah,
They've
and then
got a really good
Mandzukic
squad.
and Kovacic and...
Does the kind of behind-the-scenes issues with Modric and the perjury accusations and everything, does that bother you at all?
No, I don't think so. No, I think
on the pitch, do the talking.
On the pitch, yeah, I think it still will be, you know, it's still a really strong team, and they have like Supersic in goal, they have Vida in defence, Visaljico, they have as
and
well.
as much as they might have kind of obviously had problems off the pitch in the last couple of months, a good win or two, especially against the likes of Argentina in the group, I'm sure the Croatian public will soon kind of reunite behind them, the press get on side.
Yeah, all it takes is a win and everything
all it takes
changes.
is a win, and it's a great squad. It is a good squad.
Yeah, so they're my picks for the surprise package. I don't think they're going to win it at all, but I definitely think they could get to the semis if they get.
They could do a lot better than people expect.
Yeah, because Croatia since 1998, when they got to the semi-finals, have kind of disappointed in major tournaments.
I think they get tagged as dark horses a lot. Certainly in the Euros, they were kind of the public dark horse, and people expected of them, and they performed admirably in the group stages, and then just didn't quite turn it on.
Yeah, they got
in
knocked
the
out to Portugal in extra time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was, you know, it's one of those things where I think now's the time for them to put that right, and they've got the players to do it for sure.
Flop team. I'm going to kick off this one, and I've kind of touched on it just there. Actually, it's a nice little segue. Argentina for me.
I'll double up on them, and then we can talk about them.
I think they will get out of the groups, but I mean, I'd say it's touch and go. I think they'll lose the first game against Iceland. And it'll be pandemonium, and it'll be carnage everywhere.
So if you think they lose to Iceland, they're going to have to get a decent
They'll
amount
probably
of points
draw
out
against
the next
Croatia and then beat Nigeria by a few goals, and then they'll scrape out and play France. France will knock them out. That's my sort of unorthodox theory here, at least. But I mean, I will caveat by that by saying, if Messi has a really good World Cup, and if those Group D teams aren't as strong as I think they could be on paper, then they won't necessarily bomb. But I just think everything is set up for the... Unfortunately, I want Messi to win a World Cup. I think the best player of all time deserves a World Cup, but that's just not how it works. You know, there's plenty of examples of great players throughout history who haven't won a World Cup, and I just think Lionel Messi will be
so close to winning tournaments before. Right? Obviously, beaten finalists 4 years ago. Copa America defeats to Chile.
On penalties,
Messi retiring and coming back, and you know. I think the pressure could get to him, and I think that's part of why they're my flop of the tournament as well, because I think as much as he is a spectacular player, best player in the world for me, the kind of pressure that he feels to carry that team, it can both be a positive and a negative, and we've seen it get too much for even Messi in the past. So it will be interesting to see how they go. I'm not convinced they get out of the group. I'm going to go one step further than you and set myself up for a real fall. I think Nigeria and Croatia in particular are a much more difficult Group D opponents than a lot of people think. A lot of people assume Argentina are an absolute good thing to get out of the group, and I don't think that's the case. Iceland are a difficult team to play. Ask England, you know, and I'm not just saying that because England were knocked out by them. They are a tough team to play against.
Yeah, they set up really well.
They are very capable of frustrating a team that have that one focal point. You know, it's very easy to say it's difficult to stop them if they're on a good day, in the case of Messi, but it's very easy to diagnose where your problems are going to be in that team. And I think they'll set up against them pretty well. So I don't think Argentina are guaranteed to get out of the group.
Are they your flop team as well?
They're my flop team as well.
So we matched up there as well.
Yeah, we did. Let's hope there's some differences in the last few.
Who's your flop player then?
So my flop player is Paul Pogba.
Oh, we've gone for different ones, it's fine.
Oh, that's good. I thought you were going to say that, me too. France have a decent chance. I just don't know. I'm still struggling to see how Pogba fits into their best system. And in the last 3 friendlies, they've deployed 3 different kind of lineups. I really rate the double pivot in midfield, as it were, of Matuidi and Conte. And I know that's kind of semi-designed to free Pogba up in a more attacking role. I just think back to the Euros, for example, where there were a couple of games where he got missed. I think he got dropped by, he didn't start one of the games because he disappointed. And I think that's always a chance. The Champs are still in charge. They've got an uber-talented squad, France, and you can't carry a player if he doesn't have a good game. And so I think there's potential for him to disappoint. And if he does, and he then gets benched, where do you go from there? Does he have the mentality to come back from that and perform at the highest level and prove Deschamps wrong if he does drop him? And can he produce? You know, he's really struggled at Manchester United. I think, you know, having watched a lot of United since he joined, he really struggles to find his best position. Now, you could say that that's Jose Mourinho not setting Manchester United up around him to get the best out of him, like they did at Juventus, and accommodate him that way. I just don't know whether France are going to do that. And therefore I think he's one of those players that could be kind of almost pushed out to the fringes a little bit. I know he believes he should start, and a lot of people think he did. Obviously that price tag will indicate that people think he should start. I'm not convinced, I'm not sold from a France perspective on Pogba.
I kind of went close to France as picking a flop, but because I think that Argentina will get out of the group and then France will knock them out, I do think France will at least get to the quarterfinals, and then you have a match with probably Uruguay, and they could also win that. So I'm going to veer away from France for this one. Mine is Thomas Muller.
Really?
So he's had 2 fantastic World Cups in a row. 2010 came out of nowhere for the mainstream audience at least, and they got to the semi-finals in that competition, I want to say. Yeah, they got knocked out, So
chasing Klose's goal record
for
World Cup goals. I think he's got 10.
He's got a little way to go, But I just think, you know, you look at the season he's had, or the last couple of years he's had, the fact that there were players in that team that could probably score more goals. You know, you have Werner, who would probably be the focal point of the attack. Özil and I nearly said Sane there, not Sane.
Going back to that, isn't that kind of the role that Thomas Muller could be asked to fill?
Maybe,
you know, playing as a kind of wide forward instead of the Sane, but someone who's going to do the defensive work and the tracking back. Leaves him potential to not perform at quite the rate that people expect. For
me, Muller is a phenomenal poacher in the box. Like, no one is better from within 8 yards in modern football than Muller for me. But my problem is that if he is put out wide, he's not necessarily going to be as useful.
It's not playing to his strengths, is it?
Yeah, and I'm starting to waver a little bit on Germany and how confident I am in that team. I mean, I could be completely wrong, and they'll be incredible. They do have, obviously, Lowe, who's an incredible coach, and you know they had a great World Cup 4 years ago. But only 9 players remain of that squad. It's changed quite a lot. You've got Özil and Muller, 2 of the remnants from that side, Hummels and Boateng as well. But I just think that Germany, they're not necessarily as strong as they could be, and Muller could be one of the people.
Muller could be the guy
simply because you look at that Germany team, there's not like a real genuine star like there is like Neymar or Messi or Ronaldo. So if Germany don't get to the semis, for instance, and people look for someone to blame, it's probably going to be the player who shone for them so well at the last 2 World Cups. So that's my theory behind that.
He's set himself up for a fall, potentially.
He has.
I think that's a fair narrative to take, because he's been so effective in front of goal. He's going to be playing a potentially completely different position. can see that.
We'll see how it pans out. We're going to finish on a positive note,
Yeah.
on the best young player of the tournament.
I think we might have the same player.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Okay, I've gone for Asensio.
Oh, okay, no, we don't.
We don't have the same player? Excellent. All right, yeah, so I've gone for Asensio simply because he's had a really good 12 months, 18 months with Real Madrid. He probably won't start for Spain, but he's one of those players where you look at the squad and you think, if he comes off the bench and scores a couple of goals, then they'll let him start the next match. And if Spain beat Portugal, and I think they have Iran in their second match, they've got Morocco in the last match, and they'll probably, barring Morocco beating Portugal in the second game, which would be a real surprise, they'll be through to the next round, and they can mix their squad up a little bit and
give them the opportunity.
And Asensio could come in and really shine, having also had the opportunity in the previous 2 games. He'll be one of those first 1 or 2 subs, I think, when you want to make an attacking change. So that's
he's one of the breakout players, isn't he? Like obviously, people who watch Real Madrid regularly know what he's capable of, but he's still so young and so raw that actually, from a Spain perspective, it could be a real breakout tournament for him.
So that's my prediction for best young player. Who have you gone with?
I've gone a little bit more mainstream with Gabriel Jesus
at
Brazil. Obviously, a lot of the focus is going to be on Neymar. I just feel like he top scored for them. Well, he did top score for them in South American qualifying. He got 7 goals. He's been in and out of the Manchester City team with injury. I feel like he could just step out of that shadow a little bit. I think Neymar is obviously such a huge personality, and particularly with his transfer to PSG, he's dominated the headlines like never before. And that's an impressive feat for someone like Neymar, who's been on the radar since he was 17, basically, from a national team perspective. But I think Jesus is a player that could potentially step out from behind that shadow a little bit and prove that he is the guy to lead the line for Brazil, and it puts him in a good place to be eligible for that kind of young player of the tournament and put himself in the spotlight. Obviously, we know what he can do at Manchester City. He's got an incredible goal scoring record, considering the lack of minutes that he's had based on injury since he signed. And he's, there's a reason that Pep Guardiola almost prefers him over Aguero at this point. If you can keep Sergio Aguero out for the Manchester City team, you're doing something right. And if he's the future of that side, from a forward perspective, he's more than capable of showing it on a national stage as well.
You talked me over. I now want to go for Gabriel Jesus.
Good.
My best
I've
player.
done my job. And if I've convinced Miles to jump ship from Asensio to...
I totally agree. If Brazil gets the final, which I think they will do, I'm not sure if they'll win it, but if they get to the final, then Jesus will probably start in most of the matches unless he has a stinker in the group stage.
Well, unless someone comes in and, similar to going back to Asensio in that point, unless someone steps up in his place, should I say?
Like Firmino.
Firmino, for example, if Firmino comes off the bench after 60 minutes and it's 0-0 in the first or second game and scores a goal, and then Tite keeps faith with him in the next game, but you run that risk in a talented squad anyway. I think Jesus, he'll keep faith with him. He did well in the qualifiers, even though the goals are spread out amongst the squad. Didn't score as many as like a Cavani, for example, but with Brazil tipped to go in a lot of places, go all the way, and they're certainly they're difficult to get away from getting to the real latter stages. I think Jesus has got a fantastic chance of shining from a young player perspective.
Interesting stuff. Thank you very much for those, Jim. Those predictions. I'm sure we'll look back at these and wince in a few weeks.
Everyone will have forgotten about them by 2020 European Championships. So
hopefully, fingers crossed.
I know I've said that. Someone will remind us.
Let us know your comments in predictions. In the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear how wild and ambitious your predictions are, and whether it's your top scorer, your winner, your best young player, flops, for instance. Everyone loves to predict their flops because. They come out of nowhere sometimes. I mean, last 4 years ago we had Spain, who were the big flops, obviously, the winners of that tournament.
Tell us how wrong we are about Argentina.
Please do, if you're a big Messi or Argentina fan, then let us know.